Now we shall see the outline of the play King Lear. King Lear is an old king of Britain who abdicates his power and who decides, because he has ruled the kingdom for so many years, he decides to abdicate his power and he decides to divide his kingdoms with his three daughters. The name of his daughters are Goneril, Regan and Cordelia. Goneril is married to the Duke of Albany, and Regan is married to the Duke of Cornwall, and Cordelia is unmarried. So before he makes this division, he gives a childish proposal that the proportion of the land that is, or kingdom that is given to them, will depend upon the proportion of love that they express. Here in this, Goneril and Regan, the eldest daughters, they expressed so much, with so much excitement, they expressed so well their love for King Lear, which is just mere flattery. King Lear loved Cordelia more, and he expected Cordelia to give a better description, and then he thought that he will give her the larger portion. But to the opposite of his thoughts, Cordelia just said very plainly, she just expressed her duty towards him as a daughter and his love for him as a daughter, etc. King Lear got enraged and he disinherits Cordelia and shares her property also with Regan and Goneril. Now Cordelia is to be should get married, and to her suitors he tells them that she will not be getting any dowry, and finally the King of France marries her, seeing her honesty. Now what happens is that this is what we see in the first part, and then we also see that Kent, a faithful courtier, stands for Cordelia, and King Lear abandons him. King Lear asks him to go out of the nation. He banishes him out of the kingdom. Okay, now the next scene what we see is of Gloucester, the second plot. Gloucester has two sons. Edmund is his illegitimate son and Edgar is his legitimate and dutiful son. Edmund plots against Edgar and says that he is plotting against King Lear, trying to kill him for the property, and he convinces King Lear about it. Okay, and then what happens is that King Lear, being with Goneril, he is being ill-treated there. Kent, his courtier, his loyal courtier, who was banished, doesn't go in exile. He just comes back disguising as an old servant and joins King Lear. And when he reaches, what he sees is that Goneril, along with her steward Oswald, insults King Lear and asks him to reduce his amount of number of advisors, and also criticize his followers. King Lear gets angry and he leaves out going to Regan, and Kent is sent ahead of Regan. Meanwhile, Regan and her husband Cornwall, both of them, they reaches the castle of Gloucester, and then Oswald brings the message that Goneril will also be coming there soon, and Kent also follows Regan there. Kent is also asked to follow Regan there. Kent and Oswald fights, and then for this Kent is put into stocks. When King Lear reaches there, he sees that King Lear is not permitted to come inside the castle, where Regan asks him to ask pardon to Goneril. Goneril also reaches there. Both of them ask him to reduce his number of servants. They say two reasons. First of all, King Lear doesn't need this many of attendants, and the second thing, that they also got servants and their servants can take care of him. And King Lear goes out in anger, and that is a very stormy scene where King Lear is followed by his fool and Kent, and they goes out in that stormy scene. And Kent asks King Lear to take shelter in a hovel where Edgar is sitting there disguised as Tom. Gloucester comes to know that King Lear is not permitted in. Gloucester comes there taking risk. He comes there taking risk, like if Goneril and Regan knows, they will not spare him. So he takes risk and takes all these people into the farmhouse, and he asks Kent to take King Lear to Dover, where he will be having friends, and he also says that these two daughters are plotting against him. Gloucester reaches there, and at that time the news of French invasion comes, and then Edmund also plots against his own father Gloucester, saying that, telling to Regan and Cornwall that he is assisting Cordelia, because the war is from France. Cordelia is the queen there, so he's assisting Cordelia, and also that he is sympathizing with King Lear and all. Edmund thus plots against Gloucester, and what happens is that Goneril goes to her husband Albany, and Edmund also follows him. Meanwhile, Regan and Cornwall, they takes the eyes out of Gloucester, and he sets out like that. And out of this, out of being scared and out of the anger, one of the servants kills Cornwall. So now Regan is without a husband, Cornwall is dead, and Gloucester goes out blinded, and Edgar finds him, and Edgar doesn't reveal that he is his son, and then Edgar follows him like a guide. So Cordelia also comes to know that her father King Lear is there in Dover, and then she comes there when he is sleeping, and then she caresses him and all, and with that care and rest he regains little bit of his sense. Now what happens is that Albany, the Duke of Albany, Goneril's husband, denounces her for being ill-treating her father, and then Goneril and Regan, both of them, they fall in love with Edmund. Okay, and then Albany comes to know from a letter that Goneril writes to Edmund that these two are plotting against him and planning to kill him so that she can marry him. But Albany, even though he comes to know about it, he joins Edmund to fight for England only because of his nationalistic feeling. And then later what happens is that Goneril, who is very much jealous of Regan, because Regan doesn't have a husband and Regan loves Edmund too, so she poisons Regan. And when Goneril learns that Albany came to know about her illicit relationship with Edmund, she stabs herself. Then in the war, what happens is that France fails, and then King Lear and Cordelia are prisoners, and then Edmund gives orders that Cordelia should be murdered, and it should appear to be a suicide. Then later, Albany, with the charge of Edgar, Albany and Edgar imprisons Edmund, and Edgar gives a mortal wound to Edmund, and he is almost going to die, and then he is repentant, and he told about giving this order about Cordelia, and immediately messengers are gone, but then Cordelia is being hanged, and King Lear breaks his heart and dies. Then Edgar also reveals to Gloucester that he is his own son, and he also breaks his heart and he dies. Then in the end, Edmund also dies. So in the end, all who are left are Edgar, Kent, and Albany. Kent is like very much sad about King Lear's death, and he decides to follow King Lear. Only Edgar and Albany is left there to rule the kingdom. So all the wicked is being punished, all the evil is being punished, but at the cost of so much good. This is the outline of the plot of King Lear. I hope it is very clear to you. Thank you.